Revelation chapter 19 verse 10. And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See thou do it not, for I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren which have the testimony of Christ. Worship God, for the testimony of Christ is the spirit of prophecy. Alright, I want to start off with saying Shalom. I want to give all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Yahweh who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahushai who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And this is going to be a lesson about the testimony of Christ. Because if you go up to, any random person, right, like say for example, out of the 2.6 billion Christians in the world, if you go up to any of them and ask them, well, what's the testimony of Christ according to the Bible? They'll tell you, the death and resurrection of Christ, and how he died on the cross for the forgiveness of sin. And they'll say, well, that's the testimony of Christ, in a nutshell. Why, it's true that that, of course, has to do with the story of Christ, a very important part of the story. But that's not all of it entirely, because as we see here, I'll read the last part of it again. It says, for the testimony of Christ is the spirit of prophecy. Right, and that's what, we're out here doing in the end times. Of course, starting off with, the apostles of GMS on down, which, much respect to the, the apostles and all the other, brothers in Great Millstone. And then, of course, you have other camps out there as well that are going out and, speaking about the prophecies as well, such as, the Zakari group, and guys, affiliated with them. I got to give them credit as well. But of course, first and foremost, GMS, right? You don't have other camps out there that are pushing the prophecies as hard as GMS is, so you got to give credit where it's due, man. These other groups out here, like, what are these guys? IUIC, those guys are just Christianity with a few twists, right? Those guys are just Christianity. They just call themselves Israelites. That's really what the IUIC is, right? Israel United in Christ. I mean, shit, they're coming out now saying that something along the lines that there is a hell, right, and that there is like eternal punishment, right? Eternal burning in hell is what those guys are now saying. So those guys are following, the fables of Christianity. I think it's like hell. Next thing you know, right, next month they're going to be saying that Edomites can be saved. So it shows you, got all these, bug outs out here, even among people that are supposedly in the know. But anyway, going back to my statement, if you go up to Christians and ask them, the testimony of Christ, none of them will give you the answer according to this right here. Because the Christian church, they don't talk about the prophecies, right? They don't talk about any of the prophecies in the Bible. Out of the years and years that I've been at the church, all they really do is speak about, this or that, about how God loves everybody. Usually what would happen is the pastor will pick like one or two verses and give like a 2-hour sermon about how they correlate with his life story. You all know what I'm talking about. That's the main thing that these churches do. Like, let me give you an example, right? Yesterday, I ran into Jehovah Witnesses, right? I was downtown and I saw them there, so I was like, well, shit, I'll just, stop and talk to them for a few minutes. And it was funny because the first group I went to, they didn't speak English, even though the guy spoke English to me to tell me that, he couldn't talk to me to send me over to the other group, that's across the street. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, wait a second. You're here with this other dude, and you guys can't speak English, but yet you just spoke English to me to tell me to go over to the other group. Which I didn't argue with the dude. I said, whatever. Um, but it's like, well, shit, if you're in America, shouldn't you learn English? Because that's what most people speak over here. But that's besides the point. So anyway, I went over to the group across the street, which he directed me to go to. So I went over to them. They were polite with me. But you have to be easy with them. You can't make it sound like you're trying to debate them. You got to make it like you got to make it sound like you're asking them questions, regarding to the Bible. But really, you're setting them up so the people who listen to the conversation can see it. They clearly contradict themselves and don't have the answers. And of course, to add on to that, you have to secretly record the conversation because they don't like to be on camera. So if they see you recording them, they'll tell you that they don't want to talk to you. So they're a difficult group to have a conversation with, the Jehovah Witnesses. But anyway, long story short, I was talking to them and I asked them about down the street from where we were standing, there was a church down there that was flying a rainbow flag outside of the church, right? So I asked them, it's like, well, what do you guys think about that? Like, what do you guys think about, these churches out here, like the one up the street that's flying a rainbow flag? And then they were like, well, that's none of our business. We're not out here trying to bring division among people. If they do that, then they can do that. I mean, that's what they told me. And I cut them because they're like, well, we're not out here to bring division. But then I asked them, well, wait, what about in Matthew? Let's even get that real quick. Yeah, I asked them about this verse here in Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. It says, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I come not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that takes not up his cross and follows after me is not worthy of me. He that finds his life shall lose it, and he that loses his life for my sake shall find it. But again, the point I asked him going up to the top, because again, the Jehovah Witnesses told me, we're not out here trying to bring division among people, so we won't really say nothing, to the church, flying a rainbow flag. But it's like, well, wait a second, you guys aren't trying to bring division. But Christ said right here in Matthew 10:34, he said, think not that I come to bring peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Right, that Christ, and if you read on, right, the Lord said he came to set a man at variance against his father, to set a daughter against her mother, and so on and so forth. Right, but Christ said he didn't come to send peace on earth, but he's bringing division among people. Why? Because this truth, right, the true message of the Bible is going to bring division among people because it's very controversial. And that's just what it is. So they clearly contradicted the teachings of Christ there. It's like, shit, we'll go out there, right, brothers that are like-minded like myself, we'll go out there and we'll expose these Christian organizations and, all these other groups that claim to be founded off the Bible who follow the norms of the day, right? Like these Christian churches that are okay with abortion, that are okay with, these rainbow marriages. I mean, shit, you got churches out there who openly do, gay marriages in the church. Like they'll bring them into the church building and the pastor will, do the marriage service in the house of God, as they call it. Think about that. So we come out here, right, bold as a lion, and we confront them about these things. And then when we confront them, they'll be like, well, you guys shouldn't be so hateful. But it's like, well, wait a second. Doesn't the Bible you guys teach clearly say that God condemns this? So why the hell are you guys out here, uplifting this type of behavior? And again, you got churches out here, man, that are pro-abortion. There's some out there around the country that, say a woman should have a right to, get an abortion. And that clearly goes against the Bible. But again, it just shows that these churches, they just don't really go by the Bible. They go by the norms of the day. Matter of fact, real quick, let's grab this. All right, Matthew chapter 15, verse 8, it says, ye hypocrites, well did Elias prophesy of you, saying, this people, they draw nigh unto me with their mouth, and they honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain they worship me, teaching the doctrines and commandments of men. Right, and that's what the Christian church is out here doing. Right, they'll say, Jesus this, Jesus that. But then, looking at their works and what they teach, they're teaching completely contradictory to the teachings of Christ in the Bible. So this completely cuts them. I'll read this again, down to, I'll read verse 8 and 9. It says, this people draw nigh unto me with their mouth, and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain they worship me, teaching the doctrine and the commandments of men, right? And that's what the church does. The Christian church, they don't defend Christ, they don't defend the Bible. Whatever the government says, they abide by, which really they're under something called a 501c3, which means that, they get certain exemptions from the government where they can keep the money they make, but in return, they're restricted on certain things they can talk about. Like, they can't criticize rainbow relationships. They just got to go along with that. They can't, speak about things that might offend certain people in the society. And if they do, well, the government will, take that 501 free C or whatever it is away from them. But anyway, going back to the topic of the video about the testimony of Christ, another good one is Acts chapter 2 and verse 17. It says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And all my servants and all my handmaids will I pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy, and I will show wonders in the heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke." Yeah, and that's a spiritual thing right there, man. It's spiritual. I brought this verse up for the video because, for one, going off of the dreams portion, I mean, you got people out here having dreams, every single day about, say, for example, if you go on YouTube, look up, World War III dream, right? People that having visions about, America being taken down at World War III. People are having dreams about, the mark of the beast, which is that RFID microchip, which we've been out here, starting with the apostles of GMS. We've all been out here for years and years and years, warning about the mark, aka that RFID microchip. And it is around the corner, right? It might not be here right now today, even though there's certain people in the world who actually have the chip implanted in their hand. It's not on a worldwide level yet, but it's certainly out there in some places. I even know a person, like, I kid you not, I actually know a person who I talked to online. Well, not that I'm friends with him, but, an adversary online. I've seen, some of his videos. And he literally has the microchip implanted into his hand. I believe he calls himself Donovan Kills or something like that. But it just shows that there's some people that have it already, even though it's not on a global scale yet. But it is coming soon. And that's what we're going around teaching people about, these prophecies in the Bible. Why? Because we're the ones who actually teach what Christ taught. We're the ones teaching people, to repent from their sins and believe on Christ, right? Believe on this gospel, because he's coming back very soon. So going back to what I opened the video up with, Revelation chapter 19, verse 10, right? I fell at his feet to worship him. And, the angel told him, don't do that. I'm your fellow servant, but worship God. For the testimony of Christ is the spirit of prophecy. Right, and that's what we're teaching the people. We're teaching people those prophecies, telling them what to look out for, because, we're seeing those things on the horizon. Like, say, for example, World War III is around the corner. It's not like missiles are being shot off around the world right now today. It's not like, there's military drafts going on in America right now, but that's gonna come in the future. Even though it's not right now, not this month, not this week, that doesn't mean it won't be 7 months from now. So we're telling people about things that are going to happen in the future before they happen. We're giving the people a warning. Let's go to 19. It says, "And I'll show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke." Hell, and what was going on, 2 months ago with this whole fire in Canada, right? Everybody woke up over here and the air quality was all smoky and shit. I remember that. For the first time in my life I ever seen anything like that. And they said that New York, right, the air pollution was, for that particular day, New York held the record for being the most polluted city as far as air quality in the world. Right, you can look that up. It held that record for a day or two. With all that smoke. As far as the signs and wonders in heaven, I mean, we see that going on every day, man. You have all these UFO sightings going on. You have these other signs in the skies that people are having a hard time trying to explain certain things they're seeing. We're seeing all of these things happen right now. And why it's true this was happening, 10, 15 years ago, it's not on the level that we're seeing it right now, right? It's a increase in these sightings, right? UFO sightings are unexplained phenomenons in the sky that people are also witnessing that might not be UFOs, but, it's, a lot of things going on right now, that people are witnessing. So it bears further record that we're in the end times. Get one more precept. 2 Peter chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 6. It says, "And turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemning them with an overthrow, making them an example unto those that should afterwards live ungodly, and deliver just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked." Right, and there's a couple good points here, man. That Sodom and Gomorrah, those cities were set as an example, for people now, to let them know, hey, look, if you, live those unrighteous lifestyles, like, say, for an example, if you're a rainbow, read between the lines, but if you're living that rainbow lifestyle, or that YOLO lifestyle, right, you only live once, then there's going to be a judgment that comes for you then, right? There's going to be a judgment that you're going to have to pay, if you're living those lifestyles, so God set those cities as a warning for people that live after, like people living in our times now. When they found Sodom and Gomorrah, they actually found the remains of it, like over by the Dead Sea, right? They found the remains of, the ancient cities. And it's, complete ash over there, right? And sulfur. You can look it up. You can find information on that on YouTube. But that's a warning. That's an example, for people living now. Like, hey, look, you better not live that lifestyle, because if you do, that's going to happen to you. And then it says, going back to verse 7, it says, "And deliver just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked." Right, and we're out here, we're vexed with hearing these people. Like, literally, the conversations of these people, man. I've overheard a bunch of, messed up shit that I, didn't want to hear. Like, I'll give you an example, man. The other day I was walking through downtown, and actually this happened on the stream, believe it or not. I walked by these guys at the restaurant, and I overheard these guys making, gay jokes. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, damn, that, vexing to hear. I don't want to hear that. I'm trying to take a walk, to get my mind off of, some of the shit that I, have to deal with day to day. And here it is, I walk past these dudes sitting there making gay jokes. You know what I'm saying? It pisses you off. But, this is what you're dealing with out here. Or another thing that vexes us, you have people that are out here, reading the Bible and misinterpreting it, and got people following these people. Like, a good example would be, those Jehovah Witnesses out there. They have good intentions, excuse my stutter, to go out there and try to talk to people. But the problem is, what they're telling them is not right. Like, say, for an example, I asked them, what do I have to do? If I believe in Christ, what do I have to do? Do I just have to believe that he died for me, or do I have to follow any commandments or anything like that? And they were like, nope, you just got to believe. You don't really have to live by the law, because Christ did away with all that. You just got to believe. So really what they're doing is they're telling you, say, for example, if you're going around laying around with other men's wives, you can continue in that as long as you believe in Jesus. That's really what they're telling you, right? You can continue in your sin as long as you believe that Jesus died for you. And that's completely contradictory to what Christ taught, so it pisses us off, to hear people saying that, because it clearly isn't true. But there's nothing you can do with it. You just gotta, correct them if they don't want to hear it. You just gotta, move on to the next people, and try to correct them. Or, certain instances, with people you might have to work with, that, they might piss you off by certain things they say, or, certain lifestyles they're working. They're living, like, you got people, like, say, for example, I used to work somewhere, and the person I work with, they'd smoke on their break, so I'd have to be there with them, while they smoke. Which, hey, that's their business, but it pisses you off because you don't want to breathe in that smoke, because you can get, certain health problems just by breathing in the smoke yourself, even though you're not the one who's actually smoking. But by breathing it in, it can affect, your health, even though you're not the one smoking. So again, a bunch of, vexation that we got to deal with, especially those of us living in Babylon the Great. But of course, brothers are all throughout the world, doing, believe in this truth. They have to deal with certain things as well, of course, on a daily basis. But it's even worse, for those of us, over in Babylon, right, America. I don't want to make the video too long, so I'm going to say shalom.